Hey everyone! Before we jump into this gripping story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us here at Hot Topic TV. You don't want to miss the crazy twists and turns in the stories we share. Get comfy because today's tale is one you won't forget. Let's dive in. It began innocently, like most mistakes do. A summer business conference, held at a luxurious resort nestled in the rolling hills of California, was the setting where he first laid eyes on her. He had attended these conferences many times before, but this one felt different. Not because of the venue or the agenda, but because of the woman he met that afternoon. She was captivating, elegant, and exuded a confidence that immediately caught his attention. Dressed in a sharp, tailored red dress that hugged her in all the right places, she effortlessly mingled with the crowd, her voice soft but assertive as she navigated conversations. He noticed her from across the room, standing near a group of executives, casually laughing at a joke. He wasn't sure why he felt drawn to her, but something about her seemed irresistible. His eyes kept wandering back to her, though he tried to distract himself. He reminded himself, almost like a mantra, that he was married. He had a family, a beautiful wife, and 2 young children waiting for him back home. He loved them, but even with that in mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that this woman was something special, something different. They met formally during one of the conference lunches. She introduced herself with a smooth voice and a smile that could disarm anyone. They spoke briefly about work and about life, as most colleagues do, but he noticed the glint in her eyes, an invitation, a challenge even. She wasn't just another attendee. She was someone powerful, alluring, and dangerous. At first, their exchanges were professional. She spoke about her position as a senior executive in a rival company, and he found himself impressed by her intelligence and ambition. As the days of the conference dragged on, their conversations became more frequent, and soon, the professional walls between them began to crumble. They found themselves stealing moments alone, lingering a little too long after the sessions ended, sitting too close at dinner. One evening, after a particularly long day of presentations, they found themselves at the hotel bar, drinking wine and laughing at shared jokes. His mind was cloudy with the alcohol, but he knew exactly what was happening. Every laugh, every touch of her hand on his arm, every glance, it was leading them down a path he had no business walking. She leaned in close, her lips brushing against his ear as she whispered something that made his heart race. He should have stopped it. He should have excused himself, gone back to his room, called his wife. But instead, he found himself walking with her through the hotel halls, his pulse quickening with each step. They slipped into her room without a word, and what happened next changed everything. 4 months, they kept their affair a secret. It wasn't hard at first. They met during business trips, always careful to stay out of sight. He became an expert at lying to his wife, crafting excuses for his sudden late nights and unexpected business trips. His guilt gnawed at him, but the thrill of the affair outweighed the shame, at least at first. Every time he saw her, every stolen kiss, every forbidden moment felt like a drug, pulling him deeper into a web of deceit. Yet, as the affair went on, something in him began to change. The excitement started to wear off, replaced by a growing sense of dread. He started to notice the small lies building up, the distance growing between him and his wife. She was no fool. She could sense that something was wrong, though she never said it. She would ask him how work was going, if everything was okay, and he would force a smile, telling her that everything was fine. But it wasn't. It was far from fine. Then came the breaking point. He had promised his wife that they would take a weekend trip together, just the 2 of them, to reconnect and spend some time away from the stress of work and family. But instead, he found himself lying again, telling her that he had an urgent business trip he couldn't get out of. She believed him, or at least she pretended to. Little did he know that she had already begun to suspect the truth. That weekend, he was with her again, at yet another conference. But this time, the tension between them was different. She seemed distant, almost distracted. He tried to engage her in conversation, but her responses were curt, her smiles forced. Something was wrong. He could feel it. It all came crashing down the following morning. He was sitting at breakfast with her when his phone rang. It was his wife. He hesitated for a moment, looking at her before answering the call. His wife's voice was calm, almost eerily so. "We need to talk," she said, and he felt a chill run down his spine. When he returned home, the house was quiet. His wife was sitting at the kitchen table, a stack of papers in front of her. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and anger. She didn't yell, didn't scream. She simply pushed the papers toward him. "I know," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. He stared at the papers in disbelief. She had hired a private investigator. There, in black and white, were photos of him and her together, at the hotel, at restaurants, walking hand in hand. Every lie he had told, every moment of betrayal was laid out in front of him. His world shattered in that instant. His wife left him, taking the kids with her. His life as he knew it was over. He tried to call her, but she didn't answer. Days passed, and she remained silent. Finally, desperate for answers, he drove to her house, hoping for some kind of explanation. When he arrived, it wasn't her who answered the door, it was her husband. A tall, imposing man with a calm, cold expression. The truth hit him like a freight train. She was never really interested in him. The entire affair had been a setup, a ploy orchestrated by her and her husband to ruin him. Her husband, a competitor of his, had known about the affair from the beginning. They had played him like a fool, using his infidelity to destroy his reputation, his marriage, and his career. He was left with nothing, no family, no job, no future. As he stood there, staring at the man who had orchestrated his downfall, he realized just how far he had fallen. His greed, his lust, his selfishness had cost him everything. And now, he had no one to blame but himself. And that's the story, folks. A powerful reminder that the choices we make have consequences, and sometimes, those consequences are far more devastating than we could ever imagine. If you enjoyed the story, or if it made you think, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more shocking tales here on Hot Topic TV. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.